Well, I finally feel like I'm getting somewhere today. It's been a long process. Usually I draft everything out on AutoCAD and I have an idea of exactly what I'm doing before I get out here. And for some reason, I just decided to wing this in my mind. And it's working out, but it took a lot longer than it probably should have. So everyone just came in and looked at our two stone options on the bottom to pick out which one they liked best, and everyone picked the one on the left, the darker one. Except they don't want me to pick out pieces that don't have this darker spot in it, so I'll have to go through the stack and see what's available there. I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of people saying, that's a lot of wood around your fireplace, you're going to catch fire. You're going to burn your house down. So this fireplace has got the inside container, then there's a 2-inch air gap that vents the air into the house. Then I have a 1-inch gap with insulation. I doubled up the insulation here, and then I have so there's the insulation. You can see where I doubled it up, actually probably more than an inch. And then I've got the 4-inch CMU block with the air gap in there, and this is going to remain open so air can get out. And then it hits the wood. So this is the only spot right here where the wood is actually touching this. I got the 1-inch or more gap around the whole thing except for that one spot. That's why I doubled up the insulation on the inside. I'm not overly concerned about it, but I know some people are going to say I'll burn the house down. Anyways, so I got this all built. There's my air gap back behind there. I've got to get the insulation, fill these voids, and get ready to put drywall on. But I started putting this together and realized that I'm putting these nailers in and I can't slide my stone in. I can get around that one, but I'm going to leave this one off. Basically what I'm getting at is I have to put the stone in before I do the drywall. And that's a step I didn't count on because this is going to be drywalled. I'll have drywall back here. I'll go ahead and drywall the back wall, even though we're going to cover it up with shelving and everything. I want to go ahead and put drywall. So I've got to get all that done. I've got to put my stone in before I can do that. So it's just another delay in getting this done. I made really good progress today though. So I'll get the insulation in, and then I got a few more nailers to do. I've got to see if my tile cutter is thick enough for that stuff, and I don't think it is. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do about that. So I'll have to figure that one out. But that's where I'm at. So it's going pretty good. Oh, also down here, I got the vents put in. That's the vents that go into the firebox. So those are the vents that come into the bottom of the firebox on both sides. So that goes into that 2-inch gap. Gets sucked up around the firebox. There's a chimney going out. These are the vents for either side, and there's a 2-inch around everything inside there. And then I know some of you have seen this already, but for those who haven't, goes down this trunk line. My motor is in-line motor right there for the fan that blows down, and it branches off into the house. And just during that first burn that we did to cure the paint, it was hot, and there was plenty of heat trying to get to the upstairs, even with the fan not going. So this is going to be a heat you out of the home, open your windows and doors in wintertime kind of fireplace. So we'll see how that goes. We'll see how much we actually use it or not. We wanted to have a wood fireplace because we have about 90 acres of woods on our land, and there are plenty of down trees that we could chop up and use for firewood. So for whatever reason the pellet stove isn't working, things like that, we can run this instead. So that's that. I'll get the insulation put up and figure out how I'm going to cut this stone, this concrete tile stuff, and go from there. So I got the insulation up. That's rock wool, cannot burn. It's also a fire stop. And I got the rock wool on the other side. Then the wires I ran down, I tried to keep them on the living room side so they'd be on the inside of the insulation, I guess you can say. But we're all set up and ready to go. Of course, rock wool is an irritant, so I got my mask on. And these gloves, I'm not sure where Natalie got them from. They say it on one of the arms. Something defense, farmer's defense things. I think they're just like sleeves that will slip on your arms. They're pretty nice for doing insulation. Keeps you nice and clean. Anyways, I do not have a tile saw big enough to cut that stone, so I'm gonna go shopping and see what I can find. I would just rent one, but I don't have very many cuts on here. But when we get to the main house, we have a lot of cuts, and I don't know when I'm gonna get to that, so I have to rent the machine twice, and the second time probably for 2 days or more. And I don't know if I can devote 2 days directly to that, so I'll probably end up buying something, then I can do it at my leisure. May take me another year, but we'll see. I have to say, every time I'm getting ready to start a new project, I'm a little nervous. So getting started is the hardest part. Once you get going, you realize it's not as hard as you thought. But I'm getting ready to put the stone up around the fireplace here. And remember, I couldn't frame everything and do the stone later because I'm putting in these nailers. It's hard to slip the stone behind it. And then also it's going to be drywalled, and I have to get the drywall done before I can put I have to get the stone done before I can put the drywall in. So I got everything buttoned up here and ready to go. So before I can start any drywall, I've got to get the stone on at least this back portion there. I can wait to do the area down below. I've got to at least do that backside. So I did not have a saw big enough to do that with. So bought the cheapest one I could find at Harbor Freight. And here it is, a Diamondback wet saw. So this will cut, it says 18 inches. So this is a 36-inch piece. I should be able to cut these right in half if need be. But realistically, I shouldn't have to do quite that. I can also cut it at 45, which I may try to do if I hit a corner. I've seen it where they cut 45 this way and cut 45 this way, and they butt the two together in the corner. I don't know where I may use that, but I gotta try it at some point. Otherwise, I'll have to do some sort of trim thing. But this was $500, and I always weigh the cost on buying something versus renting it, judging by price, of course. So if I were to rent this, it would cost me $100 a day. It's going to take me more than 5 days to do all this. I would have to rent this just for today to do this small section. Then when we get working on the house, I'm going to have it for, I'm not going to be able to get it done in 4 days. There's no way. With my work schedule and basically being a weekend warrior for the most part on some of this stuff, I would never get it done. So this is actually saving me money. It has a 90-day warranty where I can take it back to the store. So that tells me that in the next 90 days, we're going to have all the stone on this house. And that way, if this burns up or craps out, I can take it back and get another one. It does cut 3.5 inches deep. So we always want to take a lot of the rock around here and slice that and then make like some backsplash tile, which would be really cool if I could do that. So I may try that while I have it. But we'll get going on hanging this up and see how well this goes. So what I'm doing right now reminds me of some other jobs I've done where I have multiple screws, multiple drill guns set out. I've got the hammer drill, I've got the 1/4-inch bit for the tapcons to go into the block, and then I've got a Phillips on an impact to go into the wood. This one now it comes out and she's like, how many drills do you need? But it makes it convenient because you're not switching heads all the time. Like I say, I got 3 of them set up. Anyways, got this first one. It actually went a lot easier than I thought. I couldn't get the screw below because it's right in the mortar line and it just doesn't have any strength there. So I'm going to leave these two 2x4s right underneath that seam until I get around to actually putting whatever I'm going to put here. I don't think it's going to break or cause any issues, but better safe than sorry. So there's the seam, and you really can't tell. It looks pretty good. The way it's staggered there looks like it's actually a lot better than I thought it would. So these side pieces should go pretty quick, and then I'll have to do some type of angled finagle cut around there. But going pretty darn good. It does look better now that I've washed those too. They're not a lot of the tan dirtiness has come off of them, so they look a lot better. Well, thanks to movie magic, it's gonna make it look like those last two pieces were pretty easy. They were not. I ran into issues all over the place. I'm hoping I can fix this in the end because it doesn't look great right now. So what I ended up having to do is drill holes. There's one there at the Tapcon, and there's one there, just a decking screw. That's the only screw I had long enough to get all the way back through it. So then there's one there and one there. It's only two holding up the top at all. But I couldn't get things to fit in right, so I started trimming this down because I just didn't have enough room. And then I realized that way down here, I got one off just a little bit. And that shifted everything this way, and it pushed this corner up. And then it wasn't fitting. So I went through all the effort to trim this down. I didn't even have to, just had to take that stuff off and adjust it. Then I was also running into a problem with the thickness hitting down in here. There's a thicker one, and it was hitting the trim. And then had a problem where this one was twisted this way a little bit. And so when I slid this in there, it was catching and binding, and I couldn't get it to go in very far. So I ended up from about here down to here, so knocking off that lip on the bottom. Knocking off this lip that's right there. And then that allowed it to sit better. But now, of course, you can see there's, I don't know if you can see that very well, but you can actually see back through instead of there being, you can see the color of the stone. You can actually see back in there a little more than I'd like to. Then I had to drill pilot holes to get these to get in there. So I'm going to have to fill these with something similar. So I mix up some mortar next and dye it. I'll try to fill it, and then maybe have to take a brush and try to make it look like it's supposed to be there. But then the drill bit I used for these wasn't big enough for my countersink, so I had to waller those out, which of course messed up the sides. Then I went to screw them in and realized that the bit is of course wider than the hole, so then I can only go in so far, which also messed up the outside. And then I had to get a flathead and screw them in the rest of the way by hand, which wasn't easy. That's the reason why I don't use flatheads anymore. This screw hit a nail. So what are the chances that right on the other side of this was a nail that I would hit? That one went in fine. So anyways, it's done. Move on to the next project now. But, you know, I was running about an hour and a half, I think, and now I'm probably 2.5 hours from just trying to figure that out, taking it out, putting it back in, taking it out, cutting it, washing it, letting it dry. It just was a process. But I go ahead and finish putting my nailers in. Now we're ready. Start hanging drywall, I think. I can't think of anything else. Oh, I got to put a smoke alarm in. I got to run a wire into the hallway, tap into where that smoke alarm is going, and then have the smoke alarm out here. So I got to do that still as well. But all I really need to do is put it in a box and run a wire. And then I can start hanging drywall.